it's probably overkill for a small shop, but I'm not thinking small shop. I'm thinking down the road.
Is it scary?
Yeah. I mean, anybody would be lying if they told you no. Of course it's scary. But when you surround yourself with good people, mentors, business coaches, whatever it may be, and go based on a track record of success and knowing like, look, I did it. When you look at it like that, you're like, I got this.
So Kenny, tell me a little bit about your background.
Ever since I was a kid, I've always had a job. Worked on the farm with my uncle when I was very small. Worked through high school, college, working on rice, crawfish, soybeans, stuff like that. And it gave me the values, the work ethic, the values. And if you work hard, you put your mind to it, you surround yourself with good people, you're gonna be successful. I mean, it all goes back to hard work. So small town, went to LSU. Go Tigers. And then, started practicing law. And I think my first case, I was still in law school. Like, we had I think I took a real estate class, and the grade was made up of 50% on the midterm, 50% on the final, equals your final grade, right? Well, I got that. I never went to class. Took the midterm, took the final, made an A. But the teacher said, no, I never saw you in class. You get a B. And I'm like, no. You're not going to mess up my grade. Like, the syllabus said 50, 50, whatever it is. So I appealed it and went to the board, and whatever, and I won. I got my A. And so that was like my first case. I was in, college. And, so it just kind of started from there. And I just like helping people. And thought about going to med school, this and that. And I'm like, well, that's like 12 years, if you want to be honest, 12 years. I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. So went to law school, loved it. I really, I'd go back to law school today because it was like I was surrounded with a lot of, great people, had fun, learned a lot, and kind of where I am now.
What was your first job out of law school?
I clerked for a district court judge in back home, Opelousas. It was phenomenal experience. I mean, I learned so much. It was great. I mean, I owe a lot of credit to Judge Doherty. He was amazing.
And after that?
After that, I went to work. Fortunately, I went to work for a PI firm doing single event car crashes, workers' comp.
And how long did you work there?
12 years, I think, to the day, actually.
And now you're running a business.
Yeah. I mean,
did you learn how to run a business during your time at the firm?
Yeah, my whole firm, I did a lot of the marketing, the business, the HR, the kind of, I guess I was managing the firm without that title kind of thing, but I was spending a lot of time doing those things.
What made you take the leap?
I knew I could do it better, and more importantly, I knew I could do it better for my clients. That every decision I've made from when I started practicing law is what's the best decision for Kenny's client. And if you can answer that, in no matter what it is, you'll be successful. You'll stay out of trouble with the bar. You'll have happy clients. You'll have repeat business. That's how I've operated in everything I've done is what's the best decision for Kenny's client. And that's part of the reason why, that is the reason why I left is because and started my own deal is, I can do it better and provide a better service to Kenny's clients.
What do you mean when you say you can do it better?
I think no matter what the business is, if it's law, if it's a doctor, if you're, eyelashes or Botox, whatever it may be, it's at the end of the day, you're providing a service to your client or customer, patient, and customer service is priority number one for me.
So did you feel that your past firm didn't have the best customer service?
No, I wouldn't say that. Everybody tries. Everybody, I think has good intentions. And
but that's not enough, though. What if, it's like if I told my clients we tried, they would be like, yeah, I don't think so.
I think that being able to systematize it is the most important thing, is doing the same thing over and over the right way, building systems and processes and procedures to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, make sure that every person is, gets the, white glove treatment. Like, I may have a bunch of clients, but I want each client to feel like they're the only client I have. And that's a struggle. It's hard. It's tough, but that's the focus that I have. And that's part of the reason I went out on my own and did my own thing is so Kenny's responsible for this. You know, like success or failure, it's on me. And making sure that my clients are treated the best. I mean, because the book of business that I have is so many repeat clients, families, referrals, personal referrals, professional referrals. That's where, you know, my bread and butter business is. And I put the time in of making sure that, you know, the clients are treated properly and, you know, going above and beyond on even the small case. The small case, the big case, like stuff people don't want to handle. Like I did, because I knew that it would pay off tenfold, you know, down the road, and helping somebody when nobody else would help them.
Got it. Now, you mentioned that you saw holes. So when you say you saw holes, did you feel like, well, I can fix them and fill them, but why not just do it for my own firm? Why not just start clean and do this correctly?
Yeah. So that's the big thing. Like, it's tough fixing problems. And, you know, I laugh all the time, like with my wife, and she said, "What did you do today?" "Fight fires." You know, it's like fight fires. We can do this the right way from scratch. We're not fixing 30 years of problems or, you know, bad processes, bad procedures and things like that. We can start from scratch and build the best law firm based on the best client customer service from scratch.
You've had the firm for a few months. What have those few months looked like? Like, what have you been working on besides taking care of your current caseload?
It's tough starting, you know, as a solo. It is. And I encourage anybody that has that opportunity or thinks about it, do it. You know, it's a struggle because you're pulled in so many directions. Because you obviously have to maintain the practice of law, the number one. So you've got that aspect of it. Well, then you got to find an office. You got to get furniture. You've got to get, you know, a phone number, a website. You know, there's so many other things to where you're pulled in a million different directions all at one time while you're taking the leap of, oh my God, I'm going to go on my own, and I got to be able to pay, you know, payroll. I got to be able to pay the rent and the light bills and things like that. But most importantly with that is you can do it. And surround yourself with smart, talented people to help you get there. And, you know, I've been blessed with mentors, you know, friends, family, my wife. Everybody's just, you know, super supportive. And when I tell people, hey, I'm on my own, I started my own thing, and they've never been more excited, like, that's amazing. Like, congratulations. How can I help? You know, that's a big deal, I think. Even a competition, you know, I mean, people that I compete with locally, they're like, need anything? I'm there to help you. You know, I think that's a big deal.
So in the legal community, it sounds like you have a support system. How did you build that? Because I think a lot of lawyers are scared to network and kind of to reach out, and maybe they feel like their competition isn't going to help them. So how did you do that?
I think you got to ask for it. You got to build friendships and relationships. So, and I think that, and I've told people before, being a solo startup or being somebody that's doing $75 million a year in, you know, revenue, like, we can each learn something from each other. Like, so I think that you just got to ask. If you don't, you know, squeaky wheel gets the grease. And be vulnerable and say, I need help, or like, I don't know how to do this, or I haven't thought about this. You've done it. How can you help me? And I think that learn from others' mistakes. You know, like somebody that's done it before, they'll say, hey, I did X, Y, and Z. This didn't work. This didn't work. Don't do that. You know, and I think that's important.
So was it just intuitive and easy for you to ask for it and to create these friendships? Because I know that that's not the case for everyone. I think you and I are both similar and we're like-minded, but a lot of people are not, and they think that if they reach out, people are going to turn them down. So in order to be able to learn from someone else's mistakes, you got to hear what those mistakes were, right?
Yeah. You got to be willing to listen. A lot of people want to tell you how great they are, but I can see how great people are. I don't want to hear about how great you are. I want to hear about where the missteps were, where the failures were, where the problems were, because that's where you really learn. I mean, you know.
But were you afraid to ask?
No. You can't
at all.
You can't be afraid to ask. I mean, you have to. I mean, no. I mean, how are you going to get help if you don't ask?
I don't know.
You can't. Like, you know.
Maybe someone just shows up magically.
No.
No, they don't.
No. You got to ask for it. You got to work for it.
So this is a theme that I hear a lot. This idea of networking, and I know a lot of lawyers that, for instance, won't go to conferences because they think that there's nothing for them to learn. Which I would argue, and you said this yesterday. You're like, the learning happens during these like after hours when you're having dinner with a group of people and you're, you know, sharing things, right?
100%. Like you're gonna learn something at a conference, no doubt. I mean, people put on these conferences and they're great. And you know, I always believed if you could take 1, 2, maybe 3 of your lucky things back home and implement them, that's a success. But the most important thing is, you know, the cocktail hour after, or the dinner, or the, you know, just, hey, at lunch, where are you from? How you doing? Like, what do you do? And that's where the value in these conferences is just the networking and the people you meet. I mean, from across the world, even different practice areas, whether it's family law or personal injury, you know, just how they do things differently. And you've always got to be willing to learn. I mean, you can't stop learning, at least for me. I mean,
no, I agree with you absolutely. And also not being afraid to ask, right?
Yeah.
And just to make those connections. How long have you been doing conferences?
Let's see, probably a year and a half, 2 years maybe.
So not even that long.
Not even that long. I mean,
and you know 3, so 4. Many people already.
I do.
What's that been like? For all those lawyers that are curious about conferences, what has that been like for you?
It's been great. It's rewarding. I mean, like, you know, I've got a network of people across the country, you know, and again, it goes back to not being afraid. You have to, if you go to a conference and you sit at a table with either somebody the only person you know, or with nobody, like you're not gonna get anything out of it. Like you have to be able to get out there, shake hands, meet people. Hey, where are you from? What do you do? Like that's the benefit. And if you're not gonna do that, stay home. Work on your business.
Were you intimidated?
A little bit. I mean, in the beginning,
of course,
yeah. I mean,
so was I.
Yeah, at the beginning, you're like, man, I don't know all these people. They've got successful firms, and you know,
and everybody seems to have like their clique. Everybody's
got their clique. Everybody's got this, and so it's difficult. But then once you finally say like, okay, like look, they're not gonna bite me. You rip that shell off, and you just go in for it, and you know, make it a point to meet new people all the time. Because you never know, like, what kind of relationship you can build, how they can help you, how you can help them, the referral partner, stuff like that. I mean, it's
no, the value is endless. Now, when did you know it was the right time to start your own firm? Like, what was that moment where you were like, because I know so many lawyers that really just need to go off on their own, and they're not doing it. So tell me, what was that moment for you?
Man, you know, I learned at my old firm. It was great. I mean, I learned a lot. Yeah, I'm fortunate to have been blessed with that opportunity, and you know, I learned a lot as a lawyer. I guess the easiest thing, and I laughed about this the other day, when there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Kenny's not going to let someone else control his future. Kenny's going to do that. I'm going to sink or swim based on what Kenny does and the people that I surround myself with on my team. Because it's not just Kenny. I got to have good people around me, good team members, and you know, everybody that works with me, wife, like family, friends. That's Kenny's support, you know, core support staff.
Okay, going forward, you're never allowed to say I ever again. I want you to refer to yourself in the third person.
Right.
No, forever.
Right. I don't. It is a team. Like, this is what I talk about.
No, I want you to, instead of saying like I'm hungry, I want you to be like Kenny's hungry.
Kenny's hungry.
Okay.
Okay.
You're gonna do that for me.
100%.
Okay. I'm very excited about that.
So, you know, I wanted to control. I know I'm supposed to say I. Kenny wanted to control his future and his destiny and how I could do things better for my clients, most importantly, and my family at the end of the day, you know?
And how are you going to do things better? Like, what are you implementing? What is the vision you have? So, like, if you and I, when we see each other at a conference 3 years from now, and you're so happy, everything is going amazing, what will have happened between now and then for you to be that happy?
You got to have a work-life balance. You got to, I've got a 13-month-old. Before it was Kenny, and then it was Kenny and his wife, and now it's Kenny and his 13-month-old. So you've got to factor that in. I don't want to not be there for him and my family, so you got to balance that.
Okay, so work-life balance.
100%.
What else?
Work smart. I'm big on processes, procedures, doing the same thing, the same way. Efficiency. People think, well, you're just, a solo guy. Like, you don't need this practice management software. You don't need this. You don't need this, whatever. And I'm like, no. It's not just about Kenny being solo. It's about I want to build the foundation correctly from the beginning, and put everything in place. So when it's the small firm Kenny to it's a big firm Kenny, like, we're not fixing those problems or trying to create those policies and procedures and work plans and things when I have a crisis, because now I'm like, oh, it's too big and I don't know what to do. Like, no. We built that day one.
Now, did you implement a case management software already?
I did.
Which one?
Smart Advocate.
Okay.
I went with Smart Advocate, and it's been good.
Yes.
I think they're all a pain. I mean, to be quite frank, because I've had, previous life, I had experience with Filevine and Lead Docket and things like that. And then you've got the big boys that play with Litify.
Yeah, because you have to implement necessary evil. So you implemented the case management software. You got a website up and running. Are you thinking of the future? So remember, 3 years from now, right? So you have work-life balance, and you mentioned you have processes and procedures in place. Have you started writing out your standard operating procedures, your processes?
When you onboard people and when you hire people, you've got to systematize that. So you do it once, and it's probably going to be overkill the first time of having the processes and procedures of how you do that and what's expected and the job description and everything. But once you put the effort in for that one, the next ones work a lot better.
What tool are you using for all that?
Well, I don't know yet. I mean, I do, but I don't.
So I use Trainio.
Yeah.
Jen uses Trainio as well.
That's where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But even that, you got to build it out. So it's
a pain in the butt.
It's a pain. So
but then what I always remind myself is I can either do this now or do it every single freaking time that I hire
100%.
someone. And I don't want to have to do that every single time. So you just do it once.
And that goes back to what I was saying. Like, it's probably overkill for a small shop, but I'm not thinking small shop. I'm thinking down the road. Let's get it right now. So as we grow and as we move forward, it works. That's the thing on everything. Like, let's overkill it now when we can get it right, get the processes and procedures in, and then as we grow, our systems are in place.
So what are you prioritizing right now? Because you still have cases, right?
Yeah, no, I still have, I have the docket of...
And a 13-month-old and a wife.
Priority number one is my current clients. We've got to do a really good job for them, and that's why I've been successful. That's what I've done, because we've achieved really good results for those guys. Priority from there is how do we continue that growth, and how do we continue... my book of business has been so strong on repeat clients, personal referrals from medical providers, things like that. So I want to maintain that, but then reach out of that network, because I'm convinced, and my track record has shown that we do a really good job for our clients, and we get great results, and those clients refer us their mother, their brother, their sister, everybody. So if I can get someone outside of my personal network, that person then becomes a referral partner that somebody I didn't have any relationship with, that John Smith that found me on the internet, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be. When we represent them and we do a great job for them, they then become that referral partner. So that's how I think it can grow exponentially. What
has been the most unexpected thing that has happened since you started your firm?
It's expensive. It's you're hit left and right from vendors, from everything, and I think
feel attacked.
No, but I mean, it's probably cost prohibitive. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that people in my situation struggle with, is making the leap and going all in, because there's just so many factors that you've got to put together. And it's not only knowing what to put together, you need a number, you need a website, you need all these things, but like you got to write the check for them.
Right.
So that's the big, I think, barrier to entry that nobody wants to talk about.
Did you get funding?
No, I mean, I did it myself. Thankfully I've done well, and you stack some money away and you just go in,
So you're in a smaller market. So for a lawyer that wants to start his own firm in a market comparable to yours, how much money would you suggest that they have put away?
You probably got to at least have a year's worth. I mean, at a minimum, maybe 2. That's a hard question to answer.
You gave me a lawyer answer.
It is. It depends. We talked about it earlier.
I know we did. I should have named the podcast It Depends, but that's neither here nor there. I feel like, especially in the PI space, lawyers can be in a unique situation where they're an employee, but because they're getting a percentage, they are making all this money, but they don't have any expenses. And when they go out on their own, now they're faced with, oh shit, I got to pay all this money, right? So initially, I assume it's a pay cut.
When you're an associate somewhere, you settle a case, you get paid. You know what you're going to get paid. It's simple. It's math. But when you go out on your own, you've got to think, I've got to get paid, but I've also got to pay my team. I've got to pay my rent. I've got to pay my light bill. And you also got to factor in, what do I budget for marketing? How do I continue, to tell other people like what I do and why I do it well? So there's a whole lot of other expenses that you've got to, factor in. And
is it scary?
Yeah. I mean, anybody would be lying if they told you no. I mean, of course it's scary, but it's scary. But when you surround yourself with good people, mentors, business coaches, whatever it may be, and go based on a track record of success and knowing like, look, I did it. I can do it. I mean, when you look at it like that, you're like, I got this. Like, you can do it. Anybody can do it if you are determined and you work hard and surround yourself with good people and always put your client first. I think anybody can be successful.
You're really, really big on putting the client first. Where did that stem from? Because I hear you say it and I believe you.
If I do a good job for this particular client and put them first, it's going to pay off tenfold. Because if I do a good job and achieve a good result, like, they're going to tell their friends and their family and their mothers and their brothers and sisters, like, man, I was in a bad spot, and Kenny and his team, they picked me up, they helped me, they did the right thing and turned a bad situation into a good one. I tell people all the time, like, I hate that it takes, a car crash or a workers' comp injury or something like that to bring us together. I want the day that we meet to be the worst day, and the day when we get the case settled, or we get a verdict or whatever it may be. That's the best day. And when we part ways, like, I can look back and say we made a difference in that person's life, and like took them from a bad situation, made it better. And if we do that, it's going to pay off. They're going to tell their friends and family that we did a good job.
Absolutely. And I love how you said earlier, if you just think about one thing, which is doing the best job for the client, everything else is going to follow, because you're going to set up your whole structure around that, right? What do I want my intake to be like? What processes do I need in place to make sure that the client is treated a certain way every single time?
Yeah, everybody wants to talk about intake, because intake's a big deal. I mean, it is. And, lots of your guests, you've got great guests that have come on here and talked about intake. Problem that we have, and I think that firms have too, is client communication.
Oh, that's huge.
It's huge. And I'll be the first one to admit I struggle with it. But, you've got to communicate with the clients. And it's hard. It really is. When you're building a practice and you're growing and you have lots of clients, it's difficult to maintain that client communication.
So what are you doing to ensure that you are maintaining the client communication?
I think your practice management software can help you with that. I think that you've got to spread it amongst your team. You've got to put reminders on your calendar, and the practice management software can trigger you every so many days, 14 days, 30 days, whatever it may be. And a lot of times it's literally Kenny like going down my list of cases, texting my clients, just saying like, hey, is everything okay? Just checking in. You make your doctor's appointment. How you feeling? How's your day? Like, that's so important, because I think people lose cases and lose clients because of lack of communication. And a lot of people...
It's the number one complaint, I believe.
I think so. It is. And it's the number one complaint, because I also think it's probably one of the hardest things. It really is. If I'm being honest with you, it's hard to stay on top of it, and it's a struggle, but it's imperative. It's so important, and it means a lot to me. I preach it, I say it, I teach it. Like, that's what we got to do. We've got to maintain client communication. Have
you also thought about the culture that you want to create at your firm?
Yeah, I did. I have. And that's huge. You've got to have a culture based upon teamwork. A rising tide floats all ships. Like, we have to build each other up, and it's not. I mean, it goes back to when I was playing football. There's no I in team. Like, we win and lose together. We're a part of it together. And I think surrounding yourself with people and team members that share the same vision and passion for customer service and client satisfaction is the most important thing.
What are you most excited about?
I like a challenge. I've always been a challenge. I fix things. I'm always looking for a challenge, and this is definitely a challenge. It really is. And I think that I look forward to our conversation a year from now. And
me too. So
we come back and we say, like, what have I done? Where have I failed? Where have I succeeded? I think that, the first case I ever tried, I lost. And, my partner at the time told me, he says, it's okay. You don't have to worry about your winning record. And you learn more, or you learn a lot, and maybe more from your failures. And
absolutely.
You've got to recognize where you went wrong and what you did wrong, and learn from that. And that's what makes you stronger.
I think you have a great mindset. I really, really do. I think you have the right mindset for what you're about to embark on. And what I want to do with Kenny is kind of follow him throughout the years. And so let's start with a few questions. How many active cases do you currently have?
I hover right around 150.
And out of those 150, how many have you generated once you started the firm?
We're probably 15 a month. So
15 a month. Oh, that's
10 to 15.
How are you generating those 10 to 15 cases right now?
Right now, all personal referrals. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, farmer clients, personal relationships, medical providers, friends, family.
That's amazing.
No, it is.
How many employees do you have, if any?
One, I have a paralegal, my main man. I mean, Scotty's fantastic. And then I have some like outside help, fractional, whatever you want to call it,
right.
Marketing kind of things. It's good.
You're excited?
I'm very excited.
Now, besides the expenses, what is your biggest challenge right now? Like what are you struggling to work on?
Biggest challenges is balancing Kenny the lawyer versus Kenny the business owner.
I think that's the toughest part about what you guys do, hands down, because it's really hard to be really good at anything. It's really hard to be really good at one of those two things.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to achieve is to continue to be a great lawyer, but also be a great business owner. And it's your first time owning a business, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the tough part, because at the end of the day, from start to finish, I'm a lawyer, and I've got clients that I've got to answer to. So you got to, that's priority number one. But at the end of the day, like, I'm running a business too. So it's tough. It really is tough. But it goes back to surround yourself with good people. When you think you're the smartest person in the room, that's when you fail. Like, you got to learn from others, So that's probably the toughest, is the balance between owner, lawyer.
Do you think it's going to be worth it?
100%. 100%.
Zero doubt.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was worth it.
Why do you think lawyers hesitate to do it? I think there's a lot of lawyers that want to go out on their own.
Complacency, maybe. Risk. It's risky. You don't want to be the person that says, I'm going on my own, and then 8 months later you're like, well, that didn't work. You know what I mean?
Well, see, Bob Simon and I talked about this, and like the way that he expressed it was, who cares? Like that's like the worst case scenario is you fail and you just go back and work for someone else. Like who gives a shit? Like that's actually not that big of a deal.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Your question was, why don't people do it?
Right.
That's I think the fear they have, but you're right. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Like you might realize, I'm not saying you, but someone might realize, you know what? I don't want to own a business. You know, like this is just not what I enjoy doing.
Right.
And then you go back and now you got that out of your system and like now you know. I forget what podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about the biggest regrets that people have had. And one is not taking action on something, like something they didn't get to do. And it really wasn't any sort of failure. Like that wasn't one of the reoccurring themes. Oh, I failed at this. I took this risk and it failed. The regret was always, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like somebody told me once upon a time, like there's no better day than today. Like you should have done it earlier. Like, you know, so like if you're contemplating it, do it. Take the leap. Make the jump.
So right now, like what does a day in the life of Kenny look like?
Well, I mean, you know, it goes back to that business owner, you know.
So walk me through it.
Well, okay. Try to get to the gym. I normally at the office 8:30ish, probably 8:30. But I'm normally up at 4:30, respond to emails, you know, work on cases, do things early, go to the gym, you know, then get to my office 8:30, and then I'm probably in my office till probably 6:30. I mean, because there's a lot. Like it goes back to lawyer owner. Like so, I've got to, you know, compartmentalize my day of I'm going to do this as lawyer Kenny, this as business owner Kenny, and it's tough. I mean, it's tough. It's a struggle when you're doing everything, and that's what if you read any of the books, you listen to any of the smart people out there, you've got to get people in place to delegate that stuff to.
And when do you plan on getting more people in place?
Like yesterday. I mean,
so
like,
you're looking.
Yeah, I'm looking. And you know, we want people, we need people, we want qualified people, we want team players, we want, you know, smart people, young and hungry, people that share the same vision and passion that I've got, like for growing and for helping people and doing the right thing. So if anybody out there looking for a job, call me, email me.
Call Kenny.
Yeah, 855-GO-KENNY.
There you go. What are your top 3 priorities right now?
I think number 1 is surrounding myself with amazing team. I need that believe in what I believe in.
Priority number 2?
Priority number 2 is marketing.
But are you scared to market? Let's talk about that. And what are your plans?
I'm a small fish, you know, kind of. I am what I am.
You're small fish trying to get big fish cases.
Exactly.
Yes.
And don't let that sound like we can't handle the big cases. Like, you know what I mean? It's not. It's.
Oh,
just,
no. I know you can't. That's not
right. It's just that the
you're competing with a big fish.
You're competing with, you know, the 900-pound gorilla, whatever you want to call them, and I think that I believe that there's plenty of work and cases and things for everybody to do a good job and to make a good living and do right for their clients. There's plenty.
No, you have an abundance mindset. Absolutely, you do. Yes.
And, you know, but I think where I can succeed is you got to be strategic. You got to be smart. You got to be nimble. You got to be, you know, sometimes when people get too big, they forget about small things and avenues where we can take advantage of. And I think being strategic and on a limited budget is great. I mean, that's an advantage. And
so what's going to be your first marketing channel?
Nowadays, you got to go social. That creates its own vibe of, you know, weirdness because it's like, wait, like you got to be vulnerable. You got to put yourself out there. Like you worried about looking like an idiot and you're like, you know, but you got to just do it and
I feel you.
Go all in. I want to be able to spread awareness of what we can do to help people. And if somebody says I look like an idiot, okay, I'm sorry. Like,
I mean, I'm sure someone has said that at some point in time about everybody.
Yeah, 100%. Like, but you're like, you know, I'm just trying to get in front of more people to say we can help you.
Absolutely. So one of the things that helped me as a person, this was many, many years ago. I don't know who told me this or where I read it or heard it, but someone said, not everyone's going to like you.
100%.
And I think that if you already know that, I thought it was like the most liberating thing. I'm like, wait, oh, cool. I am totally okay with that.
Yeah.
And I think it just really applies to social media. Because if you already know I'm not going to be for everybody, then it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, you can't please everybody. You can unfollow me, unlike me. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. And like, if you're worried about like somebody you went to elementary school or high school laughing at you, making fun of you, they're not gonna hire you anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They were not gonna hire you in the first place.
They were not gonna hire you in the first place. Yeah. And you know, I've got a great group of friends, great group of people and clients and family and friends that support me and have, been there for me. So I'm not worried about that. Like, I've got my core group of people that know who Kenny is and know that we do a really good job and care about people and do the right thing. And, I don't want to say, like, you're supposed to do the right thing. So that sounds like cliche kind of, but like, we mean it. We do it.
And what's number 3?
Number 3 is the processes and procedures, because if your team works, your marketing works, then you've got to have the ability, the function, the procedures, the processes to scale that. I mean, I think scaling is a really hard thing for people when you start to grow. And, the double, every time you double, it presents more problems. And being able, and I think a challenge for me is with the scaling mindset is, Kenny's a doer. Kenny's a fixer. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm hands-on. I want to like fix the problem and make it right. So you can't do that as you scale. So it's a challenge that I recognize, that you've got to take a step back and put people in place to handle different aspects of my practice and things like that. So it's a challenge, but that's a goal, is to be able to delegate those tasks to competent, smart, people that share the same vision that we do, to move, this thing forward.
And how are you going to hold yourself accountable? Because I hear everything you're saying, but I kind of equate it to parenting. Like, everyone's like the best parent until they have children. Everyone's the best parent until they have children.
Right.
So everything you're saying makes perfect sense. But now implementing it is going to be rough. So how are you going to hold yourself accountable? How have you been holding yourself accountable?
You got to be honest with yourself. You got to look in the mirror every morning and say, like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? More importantly, surround yourself with good people to hold you accountable.
You have friends that have really large firms. How did you become friends with these people?
It goes back to what we talked about earlier. Don't be scared. Like, you have to get out there and ask for help, make connections, talk to them. And I think that I see the potential for me and what we can build this into when I look at my friends like Mike Morris and Jen Gore, Digger Earls, like that, all good friends of mine. I see what they've done, and all of those that I named have bent over backwards to help me and want to be there to support me, because like I recognize the success that they've had and what they've done to do the right thing and build their firms and practice. I think they recognize the potential in me and to what they can look back and say, man, I can help Kenny. Like, he can do great things too, and I want to help him. So I'm honored, I'm humbled, I'm blessed. It's amazing, and I can't thank them enough.